Thank you, Andres. I'm glad you didn't read the second email I sent you. But we can talk about that another time, I'm sure. My name is Joe Coppard, and I'm from London originally. And I studied actually at LCC, London College of Communication, when it was LCP. And I studied interactive design. And kind of since falling in love with interactive design and creative technology, as you'd call it nowadays, I've been really trying to work out how to create it and how to kind of facilitate its creation in various ways. And really sort of the two big worlds of kind of code and creativity coming together. So I now live and work in Stockholm, and I run Protothon, and that's what we do. So I'll talk about that, and I'll talk about prototyping, which is one of the key things we do. And I'll talk about the internet age. Sorry, the prototyping age. The same thing. And this is what we can create in the prototyping age, the internet age. Some ridiculous, creative drone cats that you all know and love. But there's also some quite horrifying things happening in this internet age, which I think we should also be aware of and taking into consideration in this weekend. There are questionable things, maybe moralistic discussions that need to take place too. And then there are really, really profound inventions being created every day that I think can completely reshape the way that we think about creation, but also can very easily pass us by and not get Kickstarter funded. So technology today can be created and used and abused by everybody, which is such an incredible opportunity. At the same time, tech companies are the biggest and most powerful companies in the world, but they're trying to be cool and act like startups and even produce trendy caps. Or I think 5 panel caps are a little bit trendier, but this kind of storm gives us a situation where the idea is the most important thing. And if you have an incredible idea, you can make it happen. So the question these days is not, what can we do? But where the water is. And it's outside of the box, which is good. But I think we've kind of arrived at this question. We can do anything we want. So the question really is, what should we do? And my grandmother would definitely tell me to drink some water. So at the moment, what should we do is kind of dictated quite a lot by this guy. He owns pretty much everything that we spend all of our time using and communicating and creating with. And he has this incredible, well, these kind of people in their ivory towers have this incredible voice and ability. But I think we really need to take over this space and kind of, you know, own up to the fact that nobody knows what the hell is happening. And a lot of it is very peculiar. And I'm going to say this maybe potentially contentious statement that everybody shouldn't learn to code. That's one of the kind of findings that I've had over the last 7 years, is that we can try and we should understand what code is, but I don't think we should desperately fail at trying to code. I think what we should not desperately fail at is trying to collaborate and to remain specialists and find out exactly what it is that we should be doing and collaborate with incredible talents who are also doing what they should do. Like this. This is a picture from one of the hackathons that we've run. This was actually with IBM in 2013, I think. And I'm going to talk a bit more about the projects that we've done. But first of all, I'm just going to kind of describe what I mean a bit more about this age of prototyping. So in the 60s, we had sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which was the age. And these days, we have this dude taking acid and being this kind of idol. And he's not a guitar player or a, you know, he doesn't really have anything to say. He just creates beautiful bits of metal. But even the rock stars are becoming entrepreneurs now, which I think is a really interesting trend. And startups, of course, have become one of the most powerful business changes and challenges in the last 10, 15 years. Everyone and their dog has a lab, as we all know. But Ryan Gosling is the most important part of this age for me. And in 2012, August of 2012, the hackathon was written into the Cambridge Dictionary as an official term. So, I mean, I think what's really interesting is that we really, really are within this internet age now. You know, we're really full throttle. And it's time to sort of, yeah, work out how we really want it to go. So like I said, I moved to Stockholm. I've been there for 4 years now, and about a year in, I co-founded Protothon with a subtitle of Space for the Place Between Code and Creativity. And it really was founded on, after two kind of discussions or kind of incidents that happened. I was going around Stockholm trying to meet as many interesting people as possible, talking to them about this intersection of kind of code and creativity and the types of projects that I'd been involved with. And so I found myself doing a talk at GTUG, which is Google Technology User Group, and they have them all over the world. The one in Stockholm is very popular, as a lot of meetups are. So I did this kind of whole, presentation about the kind of stuff that Khan are publishing and you know, really what's going on in the kind of art and technology world. And they were fascinated. All of these incredible technologists were really fascinated with this stuff. And they could do a lot of the hardcore code behind it. But they didn't really have any confidence in the design side of stuff, and they didn't really know how to find that kind of competence or to sort of develop that. And then the next week, I did exactly the same talk to a school called Berg School of Communication in Stockholm, which is a design and advertising school in Stockholm. And likewise, the people were super interested in what I was talking about. And they could do all the design stuff, and they could do all the kind of creative stuff, but they didn't have any of the technical ability. So it was simply just an opportunity to kind of put these two types of people in the same room. And I think as an outsider, being a kind of a loud Londoner coming into soft Sweden, I just sort of, I had the ability to do what other people in Stockholm didn't really have, as just to kind of shove them in a room and let them get on with it. So together with these beautiful people, we founded Protothon. And like all of the best projects, it was just, you know, something that we really enjoyed doing. The guy on your right is a guy called Peter Svensson, who was running the Google Technology User Group. You have Johan Nilsson, who's a really incredible developer, really fascinated by traffic data, particularly, and has the biggest downloaded traffic app or kind of travel app in Sweden. And then Clara Tern, who's one of the most successful digital illustrators in Scandinavia. So as a group, we kind of represented this intersection or this cross-section. But we wanted to motivate and facilitate other groups like us. And the two programmer dudes had been running hackathons. And at that time, hackathons were still very much a kind of programmer-heavy or niched, you know, it was yeah, basically only developers and pizza and beer that was really being hacked. And so what me and Clara found interesting was this kind of collaborative process and the kind of intensiveness and what was being prototyped. But we also wanted to try and find a way of bringing in design into this and art and kind of a bit more philosophy and thought. So we set about creating all sorts of different projects based on that. A lot of them look a lot like this a lot of the time, of course. There's lots of post-it notes, of course. But then we've also really tried to push every project to the limit in terms of how to sort of create a imaginative and playful innovation environment. And we've been lucky enough to work with brands like Absolut to achieve those projects. And now over 3 or 4 years that we've been running, we have I can kind of say that we have an ecosystem, which is fundamentally this kind of prototyping that we work with hackathons and big innovation events, but we also do internal prototyping in sprint form with different organizations. We educate a lot. We teach at Berg School of Communication a lot, and KTH, which is it's the kind of MIT of Scandinavia. So we work with engineers. And then we do digital production. So the hack team that we are is a production team. So we collaborate with different programmers and different artists to create apps and installations and data visualizations and all sorts of interesting things. Another thing I might just mention at this point, or two things, we're not all still working together. So Peter and Johan are not working with us anymore. So we have the kind of more network-based team. And also throughout the last few years, we've been incredibly, kind of a bit like you were talking about, Philip, really being selective in the type of work that you're creating, not just kind of jumping at every project that's offered to us. We've actually had to turn down a lot of projects, and that's, I suppose, a kind of result of that mentality. And that's the hardest thing to do when somebody wants to pay you a shitload of money to make something that is kind of what you're meant to do, but you realize it doesn't quite tick all of the boxes. And the 3F system is one way of kind of ensuring that you are ticking all the boxes, which I think is, what is it? Fame, fun, and fortune. So we've tried to kind of be very selective in the types of brands that we worked with and strive to work with people like Stockholm Resilience Center and Tempo Documentary Film Festival. And then, we've also been very lucky. So this is one of the projects that we did with Stockholm Resilience Center. It was also NASA were involved with this, which is really crazy. And we, together, created Switched on Nature, which was hacking urban behaviors in the kind of global ecosystem. And we really strive to bring as many different types of people together. So here's one of the posters we put up all over Stockholm. This is outside the architecture school to kind of get architects involved. And a lot of the time that we spend is really researching the challenge, but also the kind of potential ways to creatively solve that and who we can bring in to do that. So interdisciplinary collaboration is a really key part of the curatorial process for us. We've worked with Google a number of times, and these are stickers for the project that we ran in London, which was Rethinking Real Time, where we brought together 10 teams. One team was about news. So we had BBC and I think Al Jazeera were represented in that team, and ID magazine. One team was music-based, and then we kind of went through a whole, I think, fashion and a whole kind of scope of different things or themes or niches affected by real time. And we were working with web audio and web RTC, which is real-time communication, two APIs that Google had just brought out that they were obviously interested in exploring from a technical and creative standpoint. This is the project we did with Absolut, the project we did with IBM, an award we got with the project we did with IBM, Beatbox Pizza, Yuri Suzuki talking at Liquid Data. And I'll just run through a few of these things. I realize that I might have gone over time. Apologies. And these are just a few kind of images and examples of the types of prototypes and environments that we've created. The process that we have developed can be described in this very simple calculation, which I'm going to go into more detail about in my workshop that I'm running tomorrow. So I won't go into detail now. But I just want to leave you with two insights that I've sort of extrapolated over the last few years. Perspectives. All of the technology is fantastic, but the people and the perspectives that those people hold, coming from different countries, coming from different professions, is the most powerful thing that you can ever hope to kind of combine in an event or in an application or whatever. Those films this morning from Teddy and the Stockholm team were so inspiring about the creativity in Ghana. And we've actually worked with those guys in a project that we ran, bringing their kind of insight and perspective into the projects. So I'd really push that every time you do an interesting project, try and bring in as many different perspectives as possible. And then, of course, action. It's all well and good talking about stuff, but creating, there's nothing more important and powerful than actually creating. So, ask not what the internet can do for you, but what you can do for the internet. Because it's not just a passive tool, and it's not just Zuckerberg's plaything, it's ours. And let's prototype another tomorrow together. Thank you very much.